I talk with a lot of software founders every week. And of course, the goal for most is to have an incredible exit, right? So you can have that amazing dream reached. You can get to that fun, like rich state that everybody thinks of. I'm making millions of dollars and I've got an island or whatever it is that is your dream. But how do you get there? How do you set up your business to achieve that exit? And who can help you along the way until you get to that exit? And at that point when you're selling, who's going to be the person who's going to actually facilitate? How do they actually make it all happen? Fortunately, I talked to Christine McDannell. She is awesome. She's with the Magnolia firm and she helps sellers of companies understand how to set up their company and be ready for the exit, how to go through the process, and to make sure they're maximizing that valuation so you get the most to achieve your dream. Definitely listen to this one if you're an owner of a software company because she gives some great advice on what you can do to be ready to exit.
Welcome to Scale Your SaaS, the podcast that gives you proven techniques and formulas for boosting your revenue and achieving your dream exit. Brought to you by a guy who's done just that multiple times. Here is your host, Matt Wolach.
Hello, welcome. It's Scale Your SaaS. I'm super excited to have you here. Thank you for being here. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you for that. If you're listening on the podcast network, thank you for that as well. My name is Matt, and we are here to help you scale your SaaS so you can understand the right methodologies for building an incredible process so you can close a lot of deals, make a great, awesome company, and then exit to your dreams. And that is what we will be talking about today, that exit, how to set yourself up for the exit. And that's why I'm really delighted to be joined by Christine McDannell. Christine, how you doing?
I'm good, Matt. I love the energy that you bring to the show. That's awesome.
Thank you. And I know that you have that same energy. So I'm really looking forward to today. Let me make sure that everybody knows who you are, Christine. So Christine, guys, you gotta want to definitely follow her and get to know her. She is the founder, business intermediary, and broker at the Magnolia firm. She is a lifetime entrepreneur that has put in the work. She started, acquired, and sold 20 plus of her own businesses and now helps others do the same. The Magnolia firm is a highly specialized boutique business brokerage firm supporting entrepreneurs through the finish line of the most important steps they will ever take, selling their company. And having been through that process myself, I can tell you it is very important that you have somebody who knows what they're doing helping you out. Christine, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me, what's going on with you lately and what's coming up?
Yeah, so believe it or not, even with the scary R word, which is recession, or the bank fallout that was very recent, people are still buying companies, and more so than ever. It's a still hot seller's market. You know, people want, I'm not just saying that because I'm in the industry, people want to have, more stability, right? And these are cash flowing businesses. So let me be specific. So people are acquiring cash flowing, stable, companies that's still showing growth through these times. Those are the ones that people are picking up very quickly.
Yeah, and I totally agree. That's something that I had to go through learning, but it's also something that, as a coach who helps people put in the right process of scaling and growing, people come to me because they realize, hey, we're coming to exit. I want to make sure we increase our cash flow, we increase our sales, and of course, our revenues and profits. So absolutely, I'm glad that you mentioned that because it is really important for buyers to have that, right?
Without a doubt. And yeah, what you do, it's like, I love if people go to somebody like you before they come to us. What ends up happening is they come to me and they say, hey, I wanted to sell my business yesterday. So we're scrambling to try to position it the best that we can. Maybe there's systems, I know we'll talk about like what they need to do now to position for a great exit so they don't leave money on the table. But yeah, somebody like you to get in there first and systematize and really, make it like a well-oiled machine will add that much more value to that exit number at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love it. I totally agree. I want to go back. What gave you the idea to start the Magnolia firm?
Well, I myself have built and sold a lot of companies. So over the last 19 years, multiple startups, multiple exits, acquisitions, roll-ups. That's my game. That's what I've been doing. And I did have a business broker, business intermediary, my very first exit. And then after that, I'm like, look, I started the company from scratch. I'm a marketer. I'm a salesperson. Why can't I sell my own company? And so there on after, I was doing all my own transactions, even the larger ones. And then my friends started coming to me and having me help them with their exits about a year and a half ago. And yeah, it's like, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing next. So launched the Magnolia firm.
Very cool. And you told me before we started recording, you were a SaaS owner as well, right?
That was the last venture. That was the hardest. I know I said I could speak to the SaaS community. 3 years, didn't hit revenue, was still able to exit it, but it was like pennies on the dollar. We'd raised a lot of capital. I mean, I was lucky in the sense for two things that it was the heydays of, 2018 to 2020, 2019, the valuations were off the charts. For my SaaS company to be 10 months old, pre-revenue, to be worth $10 million is like unheard. Like it made no sense to me, yeah. but I just went with it and we raised on a 10 million cap. And so it was a wild ride. It was 90-hour weeks. It was no sleep. It was the most stress I've had in my life for 3 years. But the second thing that came out of it was now I can help SaaS companies exit, right? I know the game. I know the raising capital. And to that point too, I know you have very savvy listeners and followers, but some people now are coming to us and saying, hey, because they raised on a 10 million cap or whatever it was on a certain valuation. Okay, well, I just raised capital 2 years ago on 15, my company was worth 15 million. I want to sell it right now for 15 million. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what you can get for your company as a purchase price. So sometimes, I do have to educate people in the sense that, that doesn't necessarily mean your company, somebody's going to pay that much for your company.
Yeah, I'm sure it's important for somebody to have that person to really level set with them and get their expectations in the right place, right? Because so many of us founders, we're always like, oh, my company's worth this, and it's really more about the market, the data, right? What do you look at when you're looking at the valuation of a company?
Yeah, I mean, out the gate, it's going to be that baseline of profit, EBITDA, seller SD, whatever you want to call it, seller's discretionary income, earnings. I mean, at the bottom of the bottom line of, all the money you bring in and you take out, and we're adding back your add backs. So obviously, you guys are running stuff through your business. Everybody knows it. So we add that back into that bottom because then the multiples based off of that. That's number one. That's kind of our baseline. I'm not a fan of people just strictly saying it's a multiple of your profit. It is, first off, what your company is worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it. I've said that forever, and it is so true no matter what. Okay, that's what your company is truly worth, what someone's willing to pay. But okay, we're going to take that net profit as a baseline, but then I'm going to start adding on to that, right? Like, what's your reputation like? How many years in business? The longevity of your team, your systems in place, all that stuff, it comes into play. And that's what we start putting into a package and marketing the company for sale. Just like if you're raising capital, you need to put a lot of work into how you're going to position it for sale. And I don't even see decks done. When a company's going to market for sale, they don't even do a pitch deck. And I'm like, yeah, but you'll do one to raise all this capital, this slick deck and this presentation. So yeah, that's the part we do for people.
Awesome. So what exactly would an advisor like you, like if somebody's like, okay, I'm starting to get there, how do you guys help, or anybody who's helping like an advisor on a buying or selling transaction?
Yeah, so we're mostly on the sell side. We do actually double side transactions a lot because a buyer comes to us unrepresented. So I'm usually helping both sides, which I actually love to do. So yeah, we're just kind of hand holding our seller. We want to come with an asking. We're not going to pressure them in. It's their company. Like I never ever want to bully or pressure a seller into taking a lower price or taking them to market and then pushing them down on price. I've seen that done in this industry, which is really sad to watch. So yeah, we collectively agree on a go-to-market price, right? It's got to be a reasonable price. And they could stay true to that number for as long as they want, and based on market conditions. And if they're patient, that's fine. We don't have to lower the price. Even if everybody's telling us, hey, it's too high, it's too high. We relay that to our seller, like, hey, here's the objections we're getting. Or, hey, you're involved too much. And for your listeners, another thing you want to work out, while you're doing this planning is working yourself out of the company. So we see the company, I'm sure you see that. I'm sure that's what you come in and help them fix, is that you're so, like, the company's wrapped around you. If you were not there, the company would fall apart. So are you just the only one doing the biz dev? Like, you're the one landing all the big clients. If that's the case, you got to put somebody in for biz dev position, take yourself out of it. Because again, when somebody goes to buy your company, they're going to say, well, shoot, it's wrapped around you and you can't leave. Or you're going to have a long earnout, like a 4-year earnout, which I'm telling you, we will not let our sellers do that. We won't let them do really any earnout, but you want to avoid that.
I totally agree. That's something I do help with. And just to add some piggybacking on that, absolutely. In the early days, I highly recommend that founders are the ones who do the sales. It's really important for you to get to know your market and your buyer and what they want, what they need. It helps you understand marketing messaging, helps you understand your sales process, helps you build out the product even better to fit them. But once you get that, you need to make sure you shift it to somebody else. You need to have the right process, the right formulas in place, the right playbook, so you can bring somebody in. They can take over, they can walk through that exact same thing, sell just as well as you, which a lot of founders have trouble with, getting that next person to sell as well as them. With the right process, you can do it. But you need them selling as well as you, and then that is a very sellable business because you're not involved. It's something that somebody else can take over. I totally agree with you. Great point, Christine.
Cool, thanks. Yeah.
So you mentioned that sometimes you're working with buyer and seller. I think that's great. How do you balance the needs and interests when you are working with both of them? How do you make sure that everything kind of aligns?
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of win-win. I know some people, don't think that's even possible, but I disagree with that point that people make. It's definitely, it takes some negotiations, it takes a little bit of give maybe on each side to get to that point, but it can be a win-win, right, for both parties. And having high integrity and ethics, and I have to be able to sleep at night, like I have to be. So I have to know I'm doing best for both parties. Majority of our buyers, believe it or not, are first-time business owners. They're leaving corporate. They got, COVID gave them that taste of freedom, and then they had to go back to the office. And now they're like, look, I'm ready to kind of strike out on my own. So that's exciting. So a lot of times, and I'm even more passionate about helping somebody that's getting into entrepreneurship for the first time.
I love it. Definitely, it's super cool to see somebody take that venture and kind of, it feels like a leap to them, but something that you and I both know is going to be a fantastic journey and a lot of learning along the way. But I want to ask you, of course, as a software founder, if you're aiming for an exit, we want to maximize that exit. So what are some of the things a software leader can do early on to kind of make sure they're set up for a great exit down the road?
And again, there's different stages. So obviously you guys are, you're trying to scale up, right? You're putting every penny into marketing and growth and systems and all that fun stuff. So I don't expect to see a lot to the bottom, if anything, right? It's not, especially not the first or second year. So you're kind of maybe putting people on the platform for free and getting, doing a lot of SaaS. That's how they start, right? They put you on for free and then they start charging a little down the road. So that makes sense. But then at year 3 and past that, we need to start seeing the profit, especially for positioning for an exit within 5. A lot of people are trying to do 5 years, which we've seen, millennials, Gen Z, they don't expect to own a company for 20 years. Like that's never going to happen. A lot of our recent clients, the youngest was like 24. Our average right now is like 33 to 35-year-olds that are exiting their first company. They've had it for 6 years. It's profitable. They had a great run at it. They just don't have the skill set to take it to the next level. And B, they're like the startup person. They're the idea visionary person. So they're ready to get to the next, start the new thing from scratch. So yeah, I would say definitely net profit, once you can get to that point, is super important. And then the team. So keeping your team happy is huge, longevity, and then reputation. So of course, the potential buyer is going to Google your company. They're going to look at the reviews. They're going to look at the social media comments. Do they like their product? What are the complaints? And address those quickly. So I think that those are the main, and systems would be the last one. Like solid systems. I always love to say, even in my companies, like write my playbook or the standard, the procedures, the operating manual, whatever you want to call it. In my company, write it like a 10-year-old can come in and run the company. Write it that detailed and that simplified. So if a 10-year-old came in, they can literally run the company. And that takes time and it's a living document. But just make sure you do that from the start.
I love that. And I totally agree. That's something that I try to help people with. And I've had some of my clients tell me that, hey, we had an exit. It was awesome. And because we had that process in place and the playbook there, the buyers absolutely loved it. And I think that's part of it. You're right. You said earlier, your company's worth whatever somebody's going to pay. Well, they're willing to pay more, and you're going to have more buyers if you have it set up and it looks so good. It looks great. And you've got the process lined out. It looks like someone could just take over and make it happen. I have been both a buyer and a seller of companies like you, Christine, and I can totally agree with that. It's absolutely cool when you've got that process nailed, right?
Yeah, and you will get out of that company even quicker. We just had a 3.5 million close just 2 weeks ago. Even with the banking drama, like that the media tries to scare everybody, our deal still closed 2 weeks later, and it was an SBA loan. But the banks didn't get spooked. It was totally fine. And that owner gets to leave in 60 days. He gets to train for 60 days and he gets to ride off to the sunset because the company was so dialed. And he was only working about 10 hours a week. He was pretty, all the way out of the company already. That again, with those systems in place and those processes, then you're out of there. If those aren't in place, they're gonna want you to stick around for a year or two. The training is gonna take longer. It's gonna be harder. You're everything in your head, and I'm one of those founders too, right? It's like, oh, it's in my head. Like that doesn't work when somebody buys your company. You're gonna have to get it out of your head somehow.
Yeah, it's very true. We think about it all the time, right? So eventually you're going to have to stop thinking about it. Easier said than done, I would agree. What would you say to some of the founders and leaders who are asking, when is a good time to sell their business? I'm sure that a lot of people are thinking, should we sell now? Should we wait a year? Should we wait a few years? Like, when should we do it? What do you say if they ask you that question?
I know, and I tell everybody, I wish I had a crystal ball, right? Because we speak to some that aren't quite ready. They're just like, look, we're scaling, we're doing great. Like, how about this? We want to hit this exit number. So some people have a number in mind that they're working backwards from. Totally get it, and a lot of times it's that 9-figure number. They just want to hit this, 8 or 9-figure number, and they'll go towards that. But then I tell them, because right now, again, super hot seller's market. But what happens if now you work another year to grow it even more, and you put all that work in, and what if the market comes down, but you grew it? So you're ending up with the same purchase price anyways. So again, I don't have a crystal ball, so there's no way for me to say if that's going to happen or not. I have no clue. So what I tell people, it's when you start getting burned out. Like you're going to have to kind of run the marathon, finish the marathon, on the exit. You want to have high energy, excitement. You still enjoy the company. You don't hate it. You're not burned out, because it's going to be that much harder to sell it because you need that enthusiasm to convince somebody else to buy it. You got due diligence to work through. Again, we try to make it as painless as possible. Sometimes it's not the case. You got lawyers involved. You got sometimes banks involved. And so you got to tough that out for a couple months. So yeah, it's just not, if you're burned out, it's not fair to your team, your clients. If you're getting burned out, that's probably the time I would tell people to try to sell. On the upward swing, obviously, upward swing.
Before
you're, and that's the hardest time because you're like, but we're doing so good. This person was doing $100,000, had his biggest month as it was under contract. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is so hard to sell it right now. It's making so much money. And I'm like, no, but this is the best time to sell it.
Good point. That's something I wouldn't think about either, but that's awesome. So what advice would you have for software leaders who are thinking about this? It's a future thing for them. What would you share with them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if much after kind of the points I've already made that, you just want to concentrate on that stuff. You want to have, start laying out a plan. So I've even talked to people that they're 2 years in and they're going to exit in 5 years. And again, they've just reverse engineered it and they're on track. They'll adjust if needed. Some of them are ahead of schedule, which is kind of cool to see. I think doing that is really cool. Just build, I mean, my biggest tip, to be honest, and I was really good about this with the software company, for some reason I wasn't, I think it was just all a hype, is not just thinking about that exit number all the time. Okay. And I have a lot of friends making the mistake right now. Oh, I'm going to exit for 5 billion and all these crazy numbers. And they just started. And I'm like, look, if all you concentrate on is building an amazing product, happy customers, if that's all you do, that exit will come automatically. But if you're only building it for the exit, thinking about the exit, it's very distracting. You're in it for different reasons, obviously, probably the money, because you keep thinking about the money. I think that's a harder route, to be honest.
I would totally agree. Having that number in your head, and I've had founders that I work with that kind of have that, and it takes you away from what really matters. And what really matters is if you deliver an outstanding product with great service, people are going to love you and people are going to come to you. And if enough people love you and come to you, which if you set up the right process, they will, then you're going to have that great exit. So focus on what's really important and what's going to get you there instead of that final end result. I totally agree. So Christine, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for everything and for sharing all of your wisdom. How can our audience learn more about you and the Magnolia firm?
Yeah, you could definitely check out the magnoliafirm.co online. That's our website. It's got a lot of fun stuff on there. But me personally, I'm great at LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me there, message me there. Happy to help if you have any questions, any scenarios you want to run by me. Super passionate about entrepreneurship, as you can tell, 19 years in the game and still as excited as day one. It's a fun journey.
I love it. And we'll put all those links into the discussion. So everybody who is on the podcast or on YouTube, you'll see it down in the comments there. But Christine, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing all this with us.
No, of course, Matt. Thanks for having me on. It was a blast.
Absolutely. Likewise. And everybody else out there, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. You don't want to miss on any other awesome leaders like Christine coming in, sharing their advice. So hit that subscribe. You'll be good to go. And then we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Scale Your SaaS. For more help on finding great leads and closing more deals, go to mattwolach.com.